watching Cybersecurity Inside, a videocast where you can discover what you need to know about cybersecurity. Here are your hosts, Tom Garrison and Camille Morehart.
Today, we have a guest, Brett Johnson, who's an expert in cybersecurity and cybercrime as a former USA Most Wanted cybercriminal and consultant. He hosts the Brett Johnson Show on YouTube. He's also a keynote speaker and operates AnglerPhish Security. So welcome to the podcast, Brett.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, truly.
So Brett, I thought it would be great to start off with talking about the dark web. You know, a lot of people have heard about it, but not a lot of people really understand what is the dark web, sort of where did it start from, how has it evolved over time, and what's the current state of the dark web?
That's a pretty interesting question because the definition of the dark web has been changing over the years. The dark web initially starts with the United States Navy. They created this thing called the Tor browser, the Onion router, that was built to allow operatives to communicate with each other without being identified. Now, that then becomes open source with the idea that whistleblowers could use it or people behind another country's firewall could use that to access the real internet. What they didn't understand is that if you have a technology that can be used to remain somewhat anonymous or to launder money, the first adoptees tend to be criminals. And that's exactly what happened. You see these criminals that start flocking and using Tor because if they know how to use it properly, they can remain somewhat anonymous. And that's the real caveat, if you know how to use it properly, because a lot of people simply don't. There's a lot of friction that comes with that. You see these criminals, they'll have Java turned on, or they'll have open windows turned on, and they'll start downloading stuff while they've got the Tor browser on, and they're identified pretty quickly. Law enforcement goes and gets them, throws them in prison. Because of that, and because of the paranoia, and because of how effective law enforcement has gotten about identifying where these boxes, where these servers are located for these darknet websites, we've seen the definition of the dark web expand and morph over the years. Now you've got Telegram, you've got Discord, you've got Wickr, you've got Signal, you've got WhatsApp, you've got all these smaller and smaller encrypted channels that criminals are kind of flocking to and using. Like right now, the Wild West of cybercrime is Telegram. Telegram's owned by a Russian. The Russian is extremely anti-law enforcement. They do not answer to the United States courts or subpoenas whatsoever. And the friction level from a criminal point of view is very low. The only thing you need to do is have a phone number in order to register a Telegram account. And everything's encrypted. Law enforcement has a lot of difficulty tracking the individuals and identifying the individuals who are using that because Telegram doesn't answer to the United States courts. So that definition has changed over the years from just the Tor browser and the websites that are used on that dark web to encompass Telegram, Discord, WhatsApp, Signal, Wickr, even some surface websites. Like, for example, you can go to Reddit. There are subreddits that deal with drug trafficking and the dark web, things like that as well. So it's this all-encompassing thing. Even YouTube, Facebook have parts of that have criminal discussions and environments in.
In the past, you've profiled cyber criminals' motivations as three different categories: cash, low-hanging fruit; status, which I guess is sort of the equivalent of fame; and ideology.
Right.
And you say that, these people operate very differently. These different motivations have all kinds of different levels of tenacity as well. I'm wondering if the effect of whoever it is, it means that a company or a person, individual needs to protect themselves against each kind of criminal motive, or if it's just the motive behind the attack, and the attack is, it doesn't matter what the motive behind it is, the attack would look the same.
I don't think the attack looks the same at all. So as we said, if the motivation is cash-based, that criminal is simply looking to steal cash. That criminal is going to look for the easiest target that gives the largest return on investment, that lowest hanging fruit, as you said. But if it's fame-based, that status, if that criminal is able to do something that no one else within his criminal community can do, it doesn't really matter about the security. That criminal's looking for the high security, something that he can do that no one else can. And that gains him respect, which equates to profit within those criminal communities. And then finally, ideology. Have you pissed someone off? Does someone have a different belief than you do? Understand the motivation, and you'll understand the persistence of the attack. Someone who's attacking you because of an ideological basis, that's an attacker who is not going to stop. They're looking at you specifically. And yes, as a company, you could be targeted for all three things. For example, I gave a keynote speech for Chanel about a year and a half ago. And the interesting thing about Chanel is that they hit all three motivations. You're looking at attackers who are looking to steal money. You're looking at attackers who can hit Chanel because of the brand name. They go back to their community and say, hey, I got Chanel. And then you're looking at attackers who, hey, Chanel, is that a French company? Well, I just don't like, the French mindset or their political beliefs. So you got all three things hit there. You have to design your defenses to address all three of those types of attackers. Because when you think about it, there are only really 7 types of attackers. You've got criminals like I used to be. You've got hacktivists. You've got insiders. You've got terrorists. You've got the script kiddies, the nation state attacks. You've got the vendors that sell the types of tools. So those 7 different attackers are there, and all 7 have a different type of motivation. So depending on your company, I've talked about that before too, you need to understand your place in the cybercrime spectrum. Why are you being attacked? Is it because of cash? Is it because of, you're that brand name and I can get fame in my environment? Or is it because of your political stance or the ideology that's going on? Understand that, design security, and go from there.
If you're interested in hearing the rest of this podcast on Inside, go to wherever you get your podcasts and listen to Brett Johnson help educate individuals and businesses as to how they can identify, profile, and protect themselves from different kinds of criminals and their motivations.